And we were here last time we did our first media query, and that's where we just made the pictures a little bit smaller. So as we when it goes when it's at over 900, it looks nice and big, as well it should. And then as we get narrow, once we go below 900, those pictures will shrink, and now we'll have more space for the text, and that'd be fine. But we found out last time when you get to about 650, it starts getting crowded again. And we need to fix this header area so that we won't have these issues. So, like I said, you can sit there and make 1,000 media queries for every pixel that you have, but that's kind of ridiculous. So, it's all up to your client, of course, but I try to eyeball it, make it, 600, 650, try to not go down to the actual pixel. So here's 650. It's looking okay. You might argue that, well, it should be a little bit higher, maybe 675. Let's see, it goes 675 or have it. But then you start running up to 900. So yeah, this is 650, good enough. And what we want to do at 650 is we want to take this picture and put it on top, get rid of this picture, and have this go across the screen. As I mentioned in the notes, if you'd rather have the female on top, just have to go into the HTML and switch these two file names so that the female is on the left and the male is on the right, and then we'll get rid of the male. It doesn't make a difference. We could actually have both of them, put them back up there. We'd have to do that by um, uh, putting the girl up here next to him, but we don't. Then we're still having a problem with real estate. So I think just moving one of the pictures up and getting rid of the other one is probably the best way to go. So let's do that first. What we have to do is we have to create another media query. So I'm just going to copy this, Control C, go underneath the footer, make some space, Control V. So that's the same one as before. And I need to close that brace. And if you remember, this is going to be 650. So we'll bring it up to 650. And down here, I'm going to comment it. I'm going to do end 650 pixels. And then I'm going to select this text, hold down the control key, and press the slash button to comment it out. All right, so let's get to work. What's making all those things go side by side? Well, let's take a look. So here's our header. The image 150, we're going to keep that the way it is. We can keep the overflow auto. It's not going to hurt anything up here. But this header container and the fact that these are floating, that's got to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these three selectors. Copy. I'll come down here and I'm going to paste them into the 650. You can see that it's not going to come in pretty. So if I select the text and press tab, I can move things over, and now it looks nice and attractive. All right, so we know at 650 we want to have all these things happen. So let's go back up here and say, well, do we need any of these at the smaller size? No, we don't want them inline block. We don't want any floats. So boom, I'm going to select that and then control slash. They're gone. All I'm doing is going to have the images small and having this overflow. You can argue overflow auto doesn't need to be here because we're not doing any floats. We could copy and paste that into it, but it's not doing any harm. So you can argue one way or the other. Like I said, there's probably dozens of good ways of doing things and thousands of bad ways of doing things. On that one, you'd have a hard time arguing one way or the other. So we'll do File and Save All, and then refresh, and then move it in. And you can see, so that's where we're gaining this real estate so these things can go out. We're going to have him on top. We actually could have, if we wanted to, get rid of him and keep her. Hey, let's do that. I like that idea now. So this is going to be different than the notes. I do that a lot of times because I'm thinking about things, and then all of a sudden I go, huh, well, why not? Let's do that. Let's get rid of him, not her this time. And then you'll see the difference. So in order to get rid of him, I'm going to have to come up here and I'm going to go ahead and take this close comment and drag it up to header container. That bringing these two back. Let's see. Okay, and then I'm going to comment this out. This is the female. And the male, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it. I'm not going to be floating him at the small size. I'm going to do display none. And that's going to make it disappear. All right, and I'm doing it with the figure itself, not the picture. I'm doing the figure, and that makes that element disappear and everything in it disappear. So let's just see, File, Save All, and then refresh. And there. Okay, so I have it the other way, but this is just as fine. So if you can decide which one of those you want to get rid of, following my notes or following this lesson. And then when I move in, so everything's going to be okay with this. Now, when I move it back out, what's going to go wrong? Ah, he's gone. All right, this thing never came back. And that's because once we have set it's disappeared, once it's display none, there's nothing after that to bring it back. So let's go back and bring it back. So this is what we did. It's float left. And what we're going to do is then add display. And how do we want to display it? It really doesn't make a difference. If you did block, inline block, or inline, it wouldn't make a difference. I'm just going to do inline block because that's really what it is when you float. So this float's going to make it an inline block anyway, but it won't change the display character unless we actually set that display character. So do File and Save All. Now if I go back here, bang, he's back. And then if we bring it in, he will disappear and she will be there. So you can choose which way you want to go with that. All right, and then the next thing we want to do is this on the bottom. Once we get to about 650, it gets kind of squished. We probably could go a little bit farther before we move it, but since we already have the media query at 650, why go another couple hundred pixels for no good reason? I think it's small enough now that these could be stacked one on top of the other rather than side by side. And not that hard to do. The hardest thing about media queries is understanding what they do so you don't screw up and go backwards. This on top is small. This down here is larger screens, right? As long as you remember that. So what is making those go side by side? Well, not the nav footer. That's background color and border, right? Well, it's nav anyway. So section, text line left. No, that has nothing to do with anything. But this right here, let's see, displaying them inline block. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do any of this other stuff. So everything with section start, except for the section tag itself. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that underneath the header. And then I'm going to go ahead and select that and tab it over. So at 650, it's going to be 650 and above is going to be like it was always. So we know that's good. And now I can come back up here. Where is it? And now I can go ahead and comment these out and see what happens. So I'm going to take these, hold down the control key, press the slash key, and then we'll do File, Save All, and refresh. So you can see that it's nice here. As soon as it hits that 650, boom, it's going to be straight up and down. Now the issue I have, not that one. Okay, the issue I have is this text is right on it, and that's not right. So we need to add some padding, and we can simply do that right here. Here's a section. We're just going to say I want to add some padding, and I want it to be nothing up and down, and 10 pixels left and right. So we'll do File and Save All, and then refresh. Boom. And now we have some space, so it's not, all cramped in that. What happens? Will it break it when we start moving out? Let's go above 650. And you can see now everything works perfectly, even with that extra 10 pixels of space. So the 10 pixels is part of the 95% that we placed in there. So the extra 10 pixels aren't going to make any difference one way or the other, especially since we're using box sizing border box. The padding then is included in the size, and we don't have to worry about that. All right, I think that is it. So everything is good now. Now, you can see that we have a bunch of stuff commented out in here, and I usually leave that until I'm ready to deliver to production, which means for you to upload to FreeHostia. We're not done with this. We're not done with this project yet. Now we have to create all the pages from that template. So before I go ahead and start wiping out any of the CSS I've written, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and build the rest of the site, because this one CSS page, it goes to all the other pages. And then if I have a page that's not working right, I might need to, monkey around with a little bit of CSS in order to make that one page work well. And if the other pages don't break because I fixed that one page, but you can see where you can be chasing your tail. You can be fixing one page and then breaking 3 others. So I usually leave this here. I will experiment with one page and then see how it affects the other pages. If it doesn't, everything's good, then no problem. But if it starts breaking some other pages, what I'll do is I'll add another CSS page just for that specific page to overwrite some of the styles here. And that's really what cascading style sheets is all about. It's not to have one style sheet for everything, but to have a general style sheet for all pages. And then for specific pages, you might have also other style sheets that overwrite the main one. And that's why we have cascading style sheets. All right, that's it for this lesson. Everything seems to be working okay. Next thing we're going to do is build the rest of the sites. So let's go ahead before we go and bring this down to 350. Oh, I'm way below 350. I'm looking at the wrong number. All right, so this is 350 right here. And you can see that everything's looking fine. So this is how it's going to look on a smartphone. And that's fine. Now we're going to make all these other things work.